Hi everyone, my name is Tianshuo Cong, and I'm glad to introduce our paper titled Test-Time Poisoning Attacks Against Time Adaptation Models. It's my great honor to work with Xinlei He, Yunshen, and Yang Zhang. Nowadays, deep learning has achieved a remarkable performance. However, deploying deep learning models in the real world poses a significant challenge due to the distribution shift. So, what is distribution shift? We know that deep learning models are usually trained and tested on the same distribution of data, and during inference, the parameters of the model are fixed. A distribution shift occurs when the training and test dataset come from different distributions. Note that distribution shift is common in the real world, such as deep learning-based traffic sign recognition systems in the changeable weather scenario. So, how to tackle distribution shift? Previous method to enhance deep learning models generalization focus on the training process to let the model learn more distribution types in advance. However, these methods cannot be applied to the diverse and unseen distribution. In contrast, test-time adaptation, or TTA, is an emerging technique to tackle distribution shifts. It has been leveraged in several real-world security-sensitive scenarios, such as self-driving, medical diagnosis, and so on. The intuition behind the TTA is that the distribution information contained in the test data can help the model to adjust itself, and the prediction will be made after updating the model via TTA. Though proven successful in improving the generalization of the deep learning models, TTA paradigms may introduce a new attack surface for attackers. That is, the parameters of the target model can be fine-tuned with potential malicious samples at test time. To study such vulnerability, we propose the first test-time poisoning attacks against the TTA methods. The details of our threat model are as follows. First, the attacker's goal is to degrade the target model's performance by nudging the model in a wrong direction by feeding poisoned samples at test time. As for attackers' knowledge, we assume that they know which TTA method the target model uses, and they can collect a surrogate model to generate poisoned samples. However, we assume that they cannot intervene the training process of the target model and don't have access to the model parameters at any time. We highlight that test time poisoning attacks are not trivial compared with training time poisoning attacks. For instance, for the training time poisoning attacks, attackers usually use mismatched sample level pairs to force the model to learn wrong knowledge. However, for the test time poisoning attacks, attackers can only feed unlabeled test data, and test data is usually used only once to update model parameters. Furthermore, the update parameters of the model may be only partial. The mentioned features pose difficult challenges for our poisoning attacks. Now, I will introduce 4 TTA methods we aim to attack in our paper. The first TTA method is test-time training method, and we use TTT for short. TTT uses a well-structured neural network which has 2 branches, and it updates the feature extractor based on a self-suppressed learning task at test time. That is a rotation prediction task. The second TTA method is TANT. Different from TTT, TANT only updates the parameters within the batch normalization layers. Specifically, TANT updates the affine transformation parameters via backpropagation to reduce entropy of the prediction logics. The third TTA method is RPL. The adaptation process of RPL is quite similar to TANT. The only different setting is the loss function to update the beam layers. For RPL, it uses generalized cross-entropy loss instead to further improve the adaptation stability. The last TTA method is DUA. DUA is a lightweight TTA method that does not require any backpropagation process. It only keeps updating the normalization statistics of Bayesian layers in a momentum updating manner. Above all, we here list the detailed information of our 4 target TTA methods. Note that the forms of the test data stream are different. For TTA and DUA, the test samples come to the model one by one. And for TANT and RPL, the test samples arrive batch by batch. The diversity of our selection helps us to prove that TTA methods generally have security vulnerabilities. From now on, I will introduce the methodology of our poisoning attack framework. Our attack pipeline contains 3 steps: surrogate model training, poisoned sample generation, and target model poisoning. In this figure, the blue arrow stands for the updating states of the target model. The yellow arrow stands for the test data stream. And the gray box here is the local attacker. Attacker uses a surrogate model and a clean seed image to generate poisoned samples. For instance, the poisoned samples are generated based on the self-supervised learning task loss within the TTA methods, and the training setting of the surrogate model are quite different from those of the target model. We use a fixed evaluation dataset to monitor the changes in model performance. Here are more details of the generation process of our poisoned samples. We use DIM to enhance the poisoned sample's transferability, and we use different loss functions to generate adversarial perturbation. For example, we aim to amplify the rotation prediction loss to poison TTA models, and increase the prediction entropy through poison samples to attack tent models. And to attack DOA models, we prove that just use Gaussian noise is enough. We will demonstrate the effectiveness of our attacks through comprehensive experiments. First of all, we evaluate the prediction performance of the frozen target models on corrupted test samples. We can observe a serious performance degradation on corrupted test samples, which means that frozen DNNs cannot be robust enough on distribution shifts. We then apply TTA methods to the target models. We can see that as the amount of benign samples increases, the model gains more performance improvement. Therefore, the performance of the target models can be improved by the TTA methods. Meanwhile, we notice that TENT and RPL both have a greater ability to enhance the model performance, and TENT can achieve better performance than RPL. Now, let's change the benign test samples to the poisoned samples. The experimental results demonstrate that, regardless of the network architecture or the training dataset, our poisoned samples lead to a significant reduction in the prediction performance of the target models. Since benign samples uploaded by legitimate users and the poisoned samples fed by the attackers are in the same pipeline. Thus, we also consider different poisoning settings. For instance, attackers can upload poisoned samples uniformly. Our benign samples have been uploaded in advance, and even after feeding poisoned samples, benign samples keep being fed. However, we prove that our attacks can still degrade the target model's performance effectively. To mitigate our attacks, we discuss 4 potential defenses: adversarial training, bit depth reduction, random resizing and padding, and JPEG compression, which are all traditional defenses against adversarial examples. Unfortunately, poisoned samples can still degrade the target model's performance. Finally, we show some realization results. We can observe that our poisoned samples can indeed induce larger loss function values. Meanwhile, the adversarial perturbation within our poisoned samples owns good invisibility. In summary, we introduce a novel test-time poisoning attacks against TTA models in this paper. For future work, we think how to irreversibly degrade the target model's performance is an interesting topic, and we advocate for the integration of defenses against test-time poisoning attacks into the design of future TTA methods. That's all. Thanks for your listening, and feel free to discuss more details with us.